You want to give it a shot?
Sure, how'd it go? Man, this. I'm as real as it gets.
Yes.
These streets is for real. I'm up in there, man.
You are.
I'm from the earth, from these streets.
From the earth.
Something to that effect.
Yes. No, but I'm with you when you say that, even when you're saying the wrong words.
If you knew what you were made of, then we would save the world.
So, the culture wars hit Hollywood. In fact, unless you've been living under a rock, everybody knows exactly what the culture wars are. So I'm not going to reframe that for anybody. If you don't know what they are, then feel free to step into any Black forum, and I'm sure you'll come across some kind of an FBA versus African versus Pan-African versus Caribbean discussion taking place. Yeah, it's not a really healthy place for the Black community to be in. But at the same time, here's the controversy. Yeah, at the same time, I think it's conversations that need to be had. I think there's a lot that has gone unsaid over the past couple of decades. And what the culture wars is doing is it's just essentially having a conversation that Black people across the world have been reticent to have for many, many, many years. And many of these thoughts and these feelings that are coming out now are not necessarily new ones. I think there's always been underlying sentiments of xenophobia between different Black groups in the diaspora. I think there's always been different aspects of prejudice and stereotyping that have been fired between groups. I also think there's been a somewhat forced community that's been pressed on any congregation of Black people, be it them being members of different ethnic groups, different religions. In fact, I'd say as a collective of disparate religions, ethnicities, belief systems, we're probably one of the most harmonious groups there is, the quote unquote Black community. No other community like the Black community exists. So when people turn around, they're like, why can't we be more like the Indian community? I'm like, what? The Indian community with one religion and one race, with one set of beliefs and one set of values? Or what? The Turkish community with one language, one set of beliefs, one set of values? And yes, I know that India has more than one religion, but guess what? Those multiple religions don't form a single community. All of the communities you see in these Indian communities tend to belong to the same religious groups. Yet we as Black people can be atheist, Islamic, Christian. We can be Yoruba, Igbo, Ga, Luo. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
You know, and yet we'll expected to kind of like form this magical group called the Black community where everyone just gets along. And in some ways, it's been miraculous that we've been able to do it. But in other ways, it's slightly unrealistic. And like I said, I think these culture wars are just an inevitable set of discussions that we need to have. And I think ultimately at the other end of these discussions and arguments, we're going to come out stronger, particularly because their origins are so diverse and so confused and so convoluted that unless we are open about having these discussions about where we truly come from, because we are the only group who've had our history set upon, where there's been a deliberate and concentrated effort to erase and to confuse our history, that makes us very unique as a group of people. And actually some Black people think, oh, it's only Blacks and the Americans who've had their history erased. But that's not true. Blacks in the Caribbean, and you believe it or not, even Blacks in Africa are very, very confused about their history. They think they're not, and they'll swear they're not, and they'll be like, oh yeah. They think because they belong to an ethnic group that has a language and can trace back their history for 100 years, that, oh, nothing's happened to our history. It's kind of like, from what I know about history and the research that I've put in, no one really knows what their true history is. We've just been given a version of history that is convenient for everyone, but isn't necessarily the truth. But anyway, I'm digressing like I usually do. Let's get into this video because I thought this is quite interesting, kind of bringing to the surface some of the culture wars. You'll see a few familiar faces. We'll talk about it.
I don't think we're taking over. I don't believe in that narrative. I think there's bigger people at play trying to put us against each other. But I think we're not taking over, but we're coming here.
So to set the scene, I'm just going to tell you the characters that I recognize here, because I only recognize 2 of them. I'm sure you'll tell me who the third character is, but this guy here, he plays Jeffrey in the new Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. In the UK, it's on a network called Peacock. I don't know what it is in America. Really good series. I really, really like it. I didn't know this guy here. It turns out that he's Nigerian. You're going to come to learn. He plays a Jamaican, which is quite interesting. So he's a black British Nigerian playing a black British Jamaican butler for the Bankses, and he's not really a butler. He's more like a laundry guy, if you know what I mean, taking out the dirty laundry. So it's quite interesting how we've kind of gone around like that. And obviously the other guy sitting down on the sofa is Godfrey the comedian, who is another Nigerian, but he's a black American Nigerian, and I really like Godfrey. I think he's always on code, and I think he's a really good poster for what it should look like in terms of black people living or being raised outside of maybe their kind of like the place of their ethnic origin, and understanding where they belong, understanding, you know, who they should support, and understanding that there's no good that comes from essentially shining a light on our differences, that we need to close ranks and we need to form and be as one. So yeah, shout out Godfrey the comedian. I'm a big fan. I'm gonna have you on my channel soon, actually. If you come across this video, I will have you on my channel soon. Let's let it play anyway.
Yeah, and we're seeing that there's opportunity that matches our talent. And I think in the UK sometimes it can feel like we don't get nurtured, you know. And I feel in the US they see someone like Daniel Kaluuya do so well and be mad talented. And it's Damson. It's a no-brainer. But there's so many.
Shout out Daniel Kaluuya as well. I think he's an amazing and underrated actor. He's Ugandan. Shout out Daniel Kaluuya. Okay, I think he's an amazing actor. To this very day, the reason I said we're doing clean sweeps, because I'm thinking about like John Boyega, who is Nigerian. I'm pretty sure black British Nigerian. He's a dope actor as well. But Daniel Kaluuya, his performance in Get Out, to me, second to none. That film, as amazing as it is, the casting is really what took it over the hill. And I don't think it would have been the film it was without the drasticness of his expressions, the ability to be completely still and have that tear fall from his eyes, and to convey that emotion of fear, confusion, when he's falling. I mean, that movie is just top tier. I've watched it over a dozen times. I'll probably watch it again now after I've finished doing this stream. That's how much I enjoy it. So yeah, shout out Jordan Peele, who wrote and directed that movie, but shout out to Daniel Kaluuya, who absolutely slayed it. I've got another video coming up soon actually about Hobie. He played Hobie in the Spider-Man sequel movie, and he was amazing in that too. But we'll talk about that another time. But yeah, so just yeah, let's carry on.
Many of that level talent in the UK.
I was just gonna say, because I think something that was interesting that you said, because I heard Denzel Washington say this. He was like, you know, he was talking to a young actor and giving advice, and he says, "Hey, if you want to act." Yeah. He says, "Get to a theater." He says, "If you want to be like me, do what I did."
That's right.
And start in the theater. Right. And I think that presence, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there's probably a greater presence in the UK with the theater than it is the training. It is here, where I think people, I know at least in California, they may go to acting classes and then try to make the jump from acting class straight into. And there's a difference. Same thing with basketball. With the European basketball, like there's this massive jump in the NBA because of the skill sets are just a little different, so maybe there's something to that.
I think there is. Like, even I just named Daniel Kaluuya. I saw him do a play called Sucker Punch. He was so young. It was probably one of the best performances I've ever seen on stage. I can go through them. I'm talking about seeing people like Adrian Lester. We've got so many talented people that you see the work on stage, and I feel like sometimes there's the glass ceiling, where you don't see people sort of transcend. But over here, I can name many of my peers and friends and all their like best work or their biggest moments that I feel I wanted to be here. I wanted to be in a place where I felt like I could have the career that my talent deserves. And
Yeah.
I'm not being like big-headed. I just could feel that. And I feel like when I look at my friends and peers, they're all out here
Killing it.
Reggae June Page, you know, Bridgerton, you know, like
Oh
he's
yeah. Oh my goodness.
reggae wouldn't be.
Shout out Bridgerton. I've got a documentary coming out very soon about Queen Charlotte, and Bridgerton has been a good point of inspiration for me in terms of reigniting my passion for Black British history. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's shout out Bridgerton.
Doing that if there wasn't Netflix, and Netflix is an American, those are British arm, but it's an American thing.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just like, okay, then you got the two black ladies in it.
Okay, I mean, he said Netflix there, and I think on this point, I think I'm just gonna shoot my point in my opinion in here. So I've actually had this discussion before. I went on a podcast channel called The Drazzy Show, and he kind of like blindsided me and brought this topic up, even though I was there to talk history, whatever. But yeah, he brought this topic up, and suddenly he had me in this discussion about FBA wars. But shout out Drazzy Show. If you're watching, shout out to you. Big up, man. Wicked channel, by the way. So check out some of his podcasts that he does on there. He gets amazing guests. But anyway, he brought this topic up, and my argument is going to remain the same. First of all, I agree, because he's arguing here. Obviously, there's a meritocracy. There's an element of meritocracy in that Britain is sending a lot of talented Black people to the States, okay? All right, or they're going there off their own back, whatever it is. Shout out Tyler Cruz. I went to school with Tyler Cruz. He went to the States. He absolutely killed it, wrote songs for Mario, made a massive career for himself, and we went to college together. So I know there's an element of meritocracy there where people are getting up and they're doing it themselves. But he just mentioned Netflix. And one of the points that was given to me was, hey, look, there's enough room for everybody. You know, if the Black British talent is the one that's just coming through, then it is what it is. Black Americans need to stop hating. They need to work harder. And my kind of point was, yes, there's no doubt that Black Brits are doing well in Hollywood. There's no doubt that they're talented and they deserve to be there. But don't ever get it twisted that the white American Hollywood, white supremacist societies will prefer in any case to hire a Brit than a Black American. Okay, it's another way of them othering Black Americans. So as much as the Brits that are there are talented and deserve it, there is a limited pool, especially when you talk about a network like Netflix, which I just mentioned a moment ago. They have a real problem with portraying heterosexual Black males, particularly of American descent. Okay, so heterosexual Black American males they're just incredibly rare on that platform, and a lot of these new platforms, they really are throttling out the image of a functioning Black heterosexual male. And then when they are getting these roles, or when these roles are turning up, you're getting successful Black British actors being cast for these roles. And it's funny because Key and Peele have got a sketch about this very thing.
Nobody's gonna tell me what the streets is like. Nobody. You understand?
That's a great speech. I just wish that I believed it. You want to give it a shot?
Sure, how'd it go? Man, this. I'm as real as it gets.
Yes.
This streets is for real. I'm up in there, man.
You are.
I'm from the earth, from these streets.
From the earth.
Something to that effect.
No, but I'm with you when you say that, even when you're saying the wrong words. I just wish you could do that.
It's funny, it's ironic, it's tongue-in-cheek, but it's also very true, because we've all seen, you know, people in positions of power play people off against each other. And I noticed a long time ago, I mentioned this to my wife, and I noticed a long time ago that, in my view, Black Americans are being sidelined from certain roles. They're doing all they can to make sure that they don't have too many Denzel Washingtons coming through. I mean, we lost Chadwick Boseman a few years ago. You know, we've got Michael B. Jordan, respectfully, who are there's not a massive pool of successful Black American actors really being pushed to superstardom. Like, we should have 20 Will Smiths by now, and we don't have anywhere near that. You know, we've still got even black female American actors. You know, look at how Taraji P. Henson she came out about how she was treated recently and how little she gets paid for some of her roles. That shouldn't be happening. There is a deliberate manipulation of the Hollywood system, and it involves using black people from different ethnic groups to take up some of these roles to basically lower the bargaining power of black American actors. And I've seen it happening for a while now. I don't want to say it as a point of hate, because the black British actors like him and like all the rest, they're dope. But it doesn't make what's happening fair. And that doesn't, and by the way, this is not me calling out, this is not for black British actors to stop going to America or to stop trying. This is me once again calling out white supremacy, calling out Hollywood, and also calling us, people who have, you know, functioning budgets, like, you know, like the Carters, like Beyonce and Jay-Z, who did a couple films. I don't know if they've stopped doing that now, you know, to actually continue to build our own industries. Because I was watching I can't remember what I was watching again. It might have been The Birdman or something. If you're not subscribed to The Birdman, he takes down these grifter channels. Black American guy, amazing, excellent. But they were talking about the fact that black movies do really, really well. Okay, Panther smashed it. It broke $1 billion in the box office. You know, one of Marvel's most successful movies ever. Blade, I think it was actually Godfrey the Comedian who was talking about it. It might actually be on here, and this might be a spoiler, but Blade saved Marvel. Okay, I knew that before, but you know, Blade saved Marvel. So you've got all of these black American legends. When I was growing up, the Wesley Snipes and the Denzel Washingtons, and you expected there to be that in multiplicity by the time I was an adult. And in my view, it just hasn't materialized enough, you know, and that's quite sad to see. Once again, this is not a point of rebuke for any of the successful black Brits who are smashing it in Hollywood. A lot of them come from London, so you know, hey, I feel a sense of pride in what they're achieving. But it's just a point of to know what's taking place and to know what's going on, and hopefully to see if we can do something to stop them essentially sidelining and limiting the ability of black Americans to make money from an industry that they've helped to build in Hollywood, you know?
You know, Adwa, she's a friend of mine, and Golda, they've been working for years in the UK, but they've this role is huge, changed their lives.
Massive.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Then you're looking at, I could go through so many different shows where people pop up, but if you just focus in the UK, the ceiling won't allow them to have
there's not the same type of opportunity.
No.
So there's this push to get out to.
And it's true what you're saying. In the UK, there's no opportunities for black actors. This is the thing. So they have to go to Hollywood, because in the UK, all they're interested in is making black people look like thugs. That's all they're interested in. So any movies you get, like there was a series recently called Supercell that came out that everyone was praising, and I said I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And I know that it's black British people who made it, and it's got a black British writer. I'm not going to give him props, and I'm not going to sell out and be like, oh yeah, it was dope. It was dope. No, it wasn't. It was vile. And it made black people, particularly black British people, particularly our youth, our young boys, made them look like a bunch of animals. And I'm not going to rate, and I'm not going to represent, and I'm not going to big that up, because I'm past all of that. Anyone can make a bag selling out. You know, if I wanted to, I could write a script tomorrow that was a sellout script, and I guarantee you I would find funding for it. Yeah, I know enough people kind of in that space to know to hand that script to, and to I would never do it. So I'm not going to praise or give props to anybody else who does that kind of crap. It's not praiseworthy. So going to the States in order to get a more normal role, a humane role in an actual real movie that doesn't just fulfill negative black stereotypes is hard. So I get the fact that they're doing all of this, you know, and shout out to them.
To the US to be able to find those opportunities, and when those opportunities happen, they usually,
Yeah. And it's still tough. You still got to book the role, right? You know, and it's sacrifice. You're leaving your family. If you are going up for like American, you got sound like you guys. You know what I mean? And
I think they think it's amazing though too. The white people get fascinated like a magic trick, because you'll be British, but then you can sound like a black American drug dealer. They're like,
I just wish you could do that.
What? Oh, goodness.
Okay, that hurts, but I don't feel that it comes from the right emotional place for the character. All right, here, give it a shot. Give me watch. Oh, that's great. I feel that in here and in here.
It's very gracious
in my
of you to
heart.
say
Try
that.
that. Did you see
that transition? And then they see a black person with a British accent. It's not as
Shout out. This is exactly like the Key and Peele sketch.
harsh to them. That's what in my head. Because you know when you hear because the black American has always been this thorn in white people's side. Like everybody fears the black American. Yo, what's good, man? Yo, white folks are always, huh? Or they're fascinated by it. You know what I mean? And then when they see like this guy comes in, hello. Oh,
listen, you seen all the memes and all the.
We can work with that. I like that. Say it again. Hi. My name. It's happened with me, so I know exactly what he's talking about, man. I'm telling you, a kind of like acceptably. I'll use the word acceptably first. An acceptably well-spoken black man is a real commodity. You know what I mean? It's like a white man that can speak Japanese.
Real the auditory is like, oh wow, that's different. That's not black. It's a different black.
I do.
You know what I mean? They welcome that more than just the black American that comes in and goes,
Godfrey, I think there should be a Hollywood roundtable discussion about this.
That would be fire.
And I think what one of my themes would be, it would be unconscious bias.
Unconscious bias. What do you mean by that?
In terms of what Godfrey just said, you know.
Shout out. I know what he means by unconscious bias. Absolutely. But this is what we as black people encounter 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know? So, I get it.
Are you just blown away by this person because of their talent? Or have you got an unconscious, you're not consciously aware of like, oh my God, but they do the thing.
There's an auditory thing.
Or they sound like, I just feel like there's something to look into that, because the people that are saying yes and picking like certain UK actors, I feel like they need to speak more, and that would stop this argument of
that would be great
pitting each other against each other.
It sucks.
Because America's got some amazing actors. I'm an actor because of so many American actors. Do you know what I mean? I grew up watching you guys, and also I'm aware of the schools in New York. You got the theater scenes in Chicago as well. There's like Washington. There's some brilliant, amazing hardcore actors out here. So I don't believe that narrative of we're better. But I do think there's a real delicate conversation to be had on all sides of like.
I think it's an important one. I think it's important,
and it's important to note that I will say quickly that it's the casting directors and Hollywood that needs to recognize their bias, and ultimately, look, we can have a big conversation about it, but ultimately, they're biased against Black Americans. They're biased against Black American women, and they're biased against Black American men. That's just a fact of the matter. If you're going in there, I know if I go into a space in America, that is, as a Black British person, okay, and we're all kind of like, equally qualified in X, Y, Z, I know for a fact it's a high likelihood that I'm going to get preferential treatment in that I've got the British link, in that I'm not one of them. Do you understand what I mean? So it's kind of like you're othered, but you're not so othered. You're less othered. In fact, you're kind of like special othered, so to speak. So acknowledging that and understanding that exists, there's nothing wrong with that. This exists in all tiers of society, by the way. I'm just talking specifically about Hollywood. There could be situations where a Black American could come to the UK and he could get treated well. He could get othered in a special way because he's not like these little young thugs from the hood. He's an American. He's got a different. So there's just it exists in all tiers of society, but it's good to know that it exists here and it's at play here, and for it not to be undermined. Okay, and it's also important, I think, for people not to take it out on the successful Black British actors. It's not their fault this is happening. They are not the ones funding or making the casting decisions. I've actually got a relative, one of my nephews is actually in Hollywood. So I understand more than probably the average person how a lot of these things work. So it is real. And it's just kind of like these are, it's great that they're getting these opportunities, but I just wish it wasn't under this kind of level of duress. It would be nice if there was more abundance in the way these roles are being offered on both sides,
important one to distinguish, because sometimes you're walking into those rooms and you just don't know what those unconscious biases are, and so you're stepping in being you, and yet there's a layer that you're there's a layer that you're fighting through.
Definitely, and I'm like, we've got to work together. Let's stop going up against each other. I don't engage with this conversation about us versus them. I don't. I'm about, when I look at someone like Jay Samuels, you know, yes, he's Nigerian, but what he does with his films, he will have someone like Omar Sy in it. He would have a Ghanaian actor in it, American actor in it, Nigerian actor, Jamaican actor. You know Omar Sy, right? So he's already doing it. Why can't we have films like that? We've got a top Kenyan actor or someone from Sierra Leone.
Period.
Like that's what we should be doing, owning IP and coming together like that, you know?
We gotta bridge it. That's why this is what we do.
See, I agree with everything he's just said there, but I think some people could take the first part of his statement and argue that that's not helpful, because a lot of people use the whole, I don't engage in this argument. That sounded to me quite similar to when people talk about, I don't talk about race, let's not talk about race. It's like, well, it's easy to not want to engage in a conversation or not want to talk about something when you're on the beneficiary side. Okay, yeah, I think it's your responsibility to talk about it when you're on the beneficiary side. It's your responsibility to have that conversation with those people. Now, the second part of his statement made it very, very clear. Let's be solution based. So he understands that if he's not going to engage in that conversation, then he needs to be a part of the solution. He needs to be working towards getting our own production studios, hiring our own. So he understands that he belongs to this wider group, this kind of Black actor community that needs to support each other. That I like, that I can dig. I would just be slightly careful of phrasing it in a way that you don't want to have the conversation, because that ultimately oftentimes is not helpful for the marginalized class. That isn't always helpful.
We're doing this.
Telling those stories to inspire so many people, you know, not only through the continent, but everywhere, just to be able to show kind of what we're doing, because the more you see it, you're going, oh, wow. And hopefully, you know, interview by interview, we start to change those biases. And we go, wow, like, you know, you see the variety, and from west to east, north to south. I want to go back to your beginning, though. I want to go back to your beginning, because you mentioned this. You talked about growing up in foster care. And, you know, in London, growing up in a white family as a Black Nigerian boy, what was that like for you? And, you know, what was your thought process as you were internalizing the world around you in that dynamic? Because it's an interesting dynamic when you're in London, you're Nigerian, but you're in a white family, and you're starting to try to have everything unravel because you're so young.
Yeah, I was so young. I mean, what was it like? I mean, the first thing that I remember is just unconditional love. You know, this family really embraced me. It wasn't like you're the foster kid, you know, it was like your son, you're my brother.
Oh,
like,
wow.
It was like, and I had two brothers and a sister, so it mirrored like my biological family, and I was the youngest. And my foster mom, Gloria, she said she could have had more children, but she was just aware that there was a lot of children out there that needed families. That's a bold thing to do.
In London.
Yeah.
And shout out to them. Whoever they are, they sound like amazing people, and they've obviously done a good job, man. So yeah, shout out.
They were very good. They were very good about going, you are Nigerian. They helped me know. I didn't lose my identity. I think the issue with when you have transracial adoption and stuff like that, it's about people losing their identity. And I think maybe because I was in London, so I saw other Black people. But I think the important thing, they always reminded me of who I was. Not to the point of like, I'm reminding you you're different. It's just like, no, you're Nigerian. You see that person, that doctor over there, they're Nigerian. You see that athlete winning the Olympics, they're Nigerian. You see that football player. Like, so I felt like it empowered me, you know? And I think that then when I engaged with my biological siblings and then some other Nigerian friends, like I realized I had a balance, and I learned more about my culture and who I was. I remember going like eating gari for the first time. Or,
what was that?
You know, like, I was like, at first I was like, what is this? Then he put the peanuts in it.
Peanuts,
like,
I like you ate the cold.
Yeah, they did the cold.
See, I like my Gary cold, but don't come with no peanut talk. What is this? Oh, I hate that. I had a few uncles that liked it with the peanuts. Like, no. I like my Gary cold, water and sugar. I know some of you are like, no, trust me. That's how I like my Gary, cold, water and sugar. Or obviously have it warm, eba, You know, that's my Eba is like my number one swallow. I love Eba. Eba and the goosey soup. Woo! I'm out of here. That's me all day long. I eat that literally if I go to Nigeria and sometimes Ghana as well. I have it every day. That's all I want. I want don't even give me the menu. Just bring me Eba and goosey and I'm done.
Yeah, you ate it cold like my father did. Then I liked it.
Yeah, I like the hot.
Oh,
Yeah, the hot.
okay,
Yeah, I like that. I could never do that. Yeah.
There you go. That's like eating the foods and my taste palette stuff.
See, I told you. See me and Godfrey, we're like that. He literally said that. I like it hot, a goosey. Oh, he knew. So shout out.
Like changing and stuff like that. But so I really felt like being with my siblings and then like a lot of my Nigerian friends, I probably have to thank them, man, because they really helped me sort of know who I was and grow up knowing like, oh yeah, I'm Nigerian. Yeah. And there's a lot of that comes with that. And also there was space to be that in the home.
It's quite interesting actually, because there's this guy going around at the moment called Frank Zanu, who I'm trying to get on to one of my channels. He's the guy who's essentially gone a little bit viral for saying African Americans have no culture. And I'm not gonna go into that right now. I've been very disappointed. Actually, I've got a video coming that he's appeared on a couple of platforms, been able to defend this point, and no one's been able to take him to school. And I'm just like, come on, the guy, his arguments aren't that difficult, guys. Don't let him run circles around you. And I get it. He's a bit charming and you don't want to kind of like really dress him down. The point I was going to make is he also makes the point there is no Nigerian culture, because essentially we know Nigeria is made up of loads of different ethnic groups. And if you was to ask somebody what's Nigerian culture, they'll tell you there's no culture. That's a load of rubbish. Absolutely load of rubbish. To everyone in the diaspora, Nigerian culture exists. And to people in Nigeria, Nigerian culture exists. My best friend is an Igbo man married to a Yoruba woman. Do you know what unifies them? Being Nigerian. Yeah, and that's very common, by the way. The intermarriages between tribes in Nigeria is incredibly common because they understand that they have this larger Nigerian umbrella. Yes, it's colonial. Yes, it's an exonym. Yes, it was externally imposed, but it doesn't matter. It has formed a culture. So cultures can form. And that point there invalidates Mr. Zanu's entire argument. But that's another video. We'll talk about that soon. But yeah, shout out. Nigerians know what time it is, you know, in the diaspora, whatever. Yes, we are. There is a Nigerian culture and there is a pride that comes with being Nigerian.
You know what I mean?
That's another 154 conversation in the books. We are bridging culture back to its roots.
So there you go. I'm guessing that was all Nigerians then. So yeah, shout out to 154. I'm not subscribed, but look at me hitting the subscribe button right now. Shout out to 154. It looks like an interesting podcast. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Godfrey the comedian. I think he's on point near enough all of the time. It's very rare he says anything that I disagree with. So I really enjoyed that. Check out the podcast if you want to see more videos like that. But yeah, there's my thoughts on the current culture wars that are taking place. Is it a big something out of nothing? In my view, like I said, not entirely. I think culture wars is something that we need to engage, but we need to do it in a positive way like this so we can have understanding between the different ethnicities and groups, because ultimately that's going to help us to formulate something that looks more like a Black community and less like a Black hodgepodge, which currently we're having to operate in. Anyway, those are my thoughts. If you disagree or agree, put it in the comments. Chat to you later. Peace.
If you knew what you were made